they're wrong about Rock Lee. It's been 20 years since Rock Lee dropped his weight in one of the most iconic scenes of all time, and there's been countless videos on how Rock Lee shows that hard work beats talent. But there's so much more to learn from this incredible character, which somehow people just haven't covered. Lee and his short journey is a beautifully detailed guide on how to find self-respect, what we should be doing with ourselves, and above all, a unique way on how to find true joy using the self-rule. This is my all-time favorite character, Rock Lee. So let's start with that. In the flashbacks of Rock Lee, he talks a lot about a self-rule. As he trains, he yells, if I can't do 500 push-ups, I'll do 1200 jump ropes. And initially this just seems like, oh wow, he's incredibly disciplined. He's very accountable with himself, which of course he is, but it goes much further than that. Almost every day, both me and you say, we're going to do something, and then we don't. We say, I'm going to run this far. I'm going to stop doing this thing that's bad for me. I'm going to study or work this much. And how awful does it feel when we don't follow through on this? Especially when it's happened over and over again. And it gets to the point where we can't even believe ourselves when we say we're going to do or not do something. When we say, I'll do this at this time later, or tomorrow I'll start doing this. And we kind of already know it's not true. Especially when it's something really important to us. It feels atrocious. What I'm going to say next is going to sound quite obvious, but bear with me here, it's going somewhere very significant. By comparison, how brilliant do we feel on those days where we tidy our room, we went to bed early the night before, we've been productive, we've done all these quite difficult things that really benefit us. I started waking up a couple hours earlier to go to the gym before work. I've been getting up at 5 a.m. And ever since I have, I've not needed a coffee in the morning like I used to. But it doesn't even have to be anything as major as that. I spend 30 seconds max before bed, picking up my clothes for the next morning. And even just the sight of those clothes ready in the morning makes me happy. And so I think the reason why Rock Lee had such confidence in himself and was just so happy all the time is because he's proven to himself that when he says he's going to do something, he actually does it. Just imagine how that would make you feel if you could say the same. Obviously, you'll achieve loads of external things by extension. A great physique, a great job, anything you want. But what's genuinely more important than that is that you'll be so much more content with yourself. And the reason why I say it's more important is because I've honestly found that the joy from achievements of any kind doesn't last that long when you're not happy with yourself. And even more importantly, think about the last time you promised yourself you'll do a certain thing but then didn't. Don't pass any judgment on it, don't hate yourself, don't get frustrated. I just want you to think that if you promise someone you love, a family member, a friend, or even like a pet, that you'd do something for them, no matter what, no matter how tired you were, no matter what excuses your brain come up with, you'd do it. So why won't you do it for yourself, bro? To actually put yourself through discomfort in order to benefit yourself. It could be the smallest thing like going for a run, or something much larger like quitting a very destructive habit. To me, that's what self-love, self-care, whatever you want to call it, actually is. I don't think the scale of what you do is anywhere near as important as the intent, but I've really been acting with this idea in mind for the last couple months, and even with a ton of IRL stuff going on, it's helped more of my negative thoughts than any of the usual ideas you see online. And it'll help you too, bro. I promise, because you can't hate someone who does loads to help you out, right? You won't hate someone who's just helping you all the time. So start doing those things for yourself. Anyway, back to Rock Lee. The recurring theme for our story is this whole idea of talent versus hard work, which people have spoken so much about. Now, there's no denying that some people are naturally better at some things than others, and this is a major source of frustration for some people. So we have two options, one of which I think most of us, myself included, are very guilty of, which is simply saying, well, I simply have no talent for that, so I'm not even going to try. But not Rock Lee. I know he has a breakdown at one point over it all, and I'm really glad they put that in because it makes it all so much more realistic. It's very normal to have these doubts, but I'll come back to that. Because as younger Might Guy realized whilst watching Kakashi, sure, if these geniuses work as hard as you, the honest truth is you won't ever beat them. Which initially sounds like a difficult pill to swallow, but it honestly shouldn't be. Because the second option is to simply realize that it doesn't matter. because you don't have to be number one to get all the benefits of hard work. You know, Rock Lee is a perfect example of this. His goal is never to be the best. I'm sure realistically he knew that was out of reach for him, but he also realizes that it just doesn't matter. Okay, sure. No matter how hard you train at the gym, you won't look like Arnold. And that doesn't mean you can't improve your physique, look absolutely incredible, and reap all the benefits of that. The confidence, the pride, the health, the respect, the self-respect, as we spoke about earlier. To not enjoy any of that because you can't be world champion is ridiculous. You know, as another example, if I was to say right now, oh well, my channel won't be as big as Mr. Beast, I might as well just stop uploading, I'm deleting my channel. Your immediate thought is like, what are you talking about, man? That's ridiculous. You know, we get way too caught up on, oh well, I've got a bad starter point, I won't be number one in the world, to realize that firstly, that can actually make achieving that thing way more satisfying. You know, just ask anyone who started very skinny or very overweight and made a ton of progress in the gym. Just having a physique they're comfortable in, let alone a seriously impressive one, will mean 100 times more to them than people who've never had to worry about that. Secondly, you can go way further than you think. There isn't a man alive, you and me included, who can't get extremely good, maybe not best in the world, but extremely good at anything. And what's holding us back is not our natural talent. It's just the things we're doing. You know, I had to admit to myself that the reason why I wasn't making gains wasn't genetics, it's that I wasn't sticking to my diet enough. The reason why my social anxiety wasn't improving wasn't because I was cursed to have it forever. It's because I wasn't taking any of the steps to improve it. It doesn't matter what it is. You can go way further than you are now. I mean, just look at my guy. Even Madara couldn't deny the ridiculous strength he had, but suppose he hadn't trained. Suppose he just said, well, all I have is taijutsu. I'll never get anywhere because everyone's got a way better starting point than me. You know, my guy and Lee embody all of what I've just said, which is why even though he lost, my guy still said Lee was a great ninja, which is exactly what Lee was aiming for. But before I move on to the next point, I just want to go over Lee's thought process before he started opening the gates. Right before he does, he thinks about Neji, Sasuke and Naruto and says to himself, I'm not going to be the only one to lose here. He realizes that there's no reason he shouldn't or couldn't have what everyone else does. And you should be the same. You shouldn't be thinking, oh, I wish I could be like that, because you can be like that. Do you know, I would bet in 99.9% of cases, it's not your talent or some natural limit that's holding you back. It's just the things you're doing. Now, I'm going to explain why in this third point, actually. We've all, at some point, looked at something we've wanted but been utterly daunted by it. The skinny or overweight guy thinking about the months or years of dieting and workouts to get that physique he wants. The student realizing how many study sessions he's going to spit in to go where he wants. Or Rock Lee seeing how many countless years of training he's got ahead of him. And it's especially daunting when you can't help but feel as though you're just not good enough to do that. But as we find out about Rock Lee's backstory, it's revealed that he had no ninjutsu or genjutsu, leaving with what was initially just his very mediocre taijutsu. And so I think it's fair to say that whatever feelings of inferiority or doubt you might have, Rock Lee would have felt double that, seeing all these crazy techniques everyone had been using whilst he had nothing. Not only was he so far behind, but as far as he knew, with just taijutsu, even all the work and training in the world realistically couldn't guarantee him anything. But even as everyone laughs and mocks him, he trains. He sees again and again that everyone else is so far ahead of him, and he keeps training. And I bet for so much of that, it all felt so worthless, so useless, as though all his effort was pointless. And as this feeling inevitably gets too much for him to bear, and he breaks down to my guy, he spills out all his doubts and fears, and I've never related more to a character than when he says,
sometimes it seems like the whole thing is pointless. Like I am a loser and I will always be a loser.
There's only about 2 seconds between Lee saying this and my guy's response. But in that time, a million thoughts flashed through my head, and I'm sure yours too. Unfortunately, most of us never have a mic guy to tell us this, but whatever bullshit other people have told you, whatever nonsense your brain has tried to convince you about how you're worthless and you can't do that and you can't be like everyone else, it's not true. It's absolutely not true. You know, I spent over 2 decades convinced something was wrong with me, in particular when it came to social interaction, because I tried to talk to people and I just couldn't. I'd just freeze up, I'd barely get a word out, my chest would tighten up. When I did speak, it was just a jumbled mess. I was tripping over my words, and I hated myself. I got so angry with myself every time it happened, and I saw myself as just beneath everyone else around me. So I started going to the gym, secretly at like 1 a.m. because I didn't want anyone to laugh at me. I spent all my time watching YouTube fitness, and a year passed of me consistently going to the gym. And I was lifting heavier weights, but I looked exactly the same. I'd made zero progress. And so I was convinced something was wrong with me that stopped me from progressing, because that seemed to be the case in every other aspect of life. And I was honestly so close to just giving up, accepting my face as like this outcast who can't do anything right. And again, my brain was telling me, look, see, you can't be like everyone else. Isn't the pattern clear now? You've tried this so many times, things just never work out for you. And it was the smallest thing that actually got me over this. It was just one day I walked into my flat's kitchen, and one of my flatmates suddenly said to me, "Oh, you've been lifting weights?" And I just sort of stared at him for a few moments. And then over the next month, I made more progress than I did in the preceding year. And why do you think that was? Before, when I was so convinced it wasn't possible for me to make any progress, how much effort do you think I was actually putting in? Do you think I was pushing myself on every rep and hitting my diet every day? Of course not, because why would I if I supposedly couldn't make progress anyway? And that was actually the issue. By the way, I just wasn't eating enough. It wasn't some curse. There was nothing wrong with me. I just let all these thoughts blind me to the actual issue. And it links back to what I was saying earlier, constantly telling myself that I was useless and I couldn't achieve anything. It was the very opposite of self-love. It's such a cliche Disney thing to say, but my guy gave me the missing piece of the puzzle. That for those who don't believe in themselves, hard work is worthless. And of course, it's not as easy as me just saying that and you having this genuine, deep belief that you can do it because you've likely got God knows how many years of experience, supposedly proving otherwise. But if you can just keep going until you get a first hint of progress, then before you know it, you'll have your waist drop moment when no one can deny what you've become. And I think that's part of why I love this scene so much. It's just so real. These moments exist. I've had a couple of them now, the jokes of all the onlookers slowly turning into admittance. That initial shock everyone has. Just so much about the scene lines up my own experience. And if you've not had a moment like that yet, I promise it's coming if you keep working at it. And so the final point I want to make in this video is one which kind of ties everything I've said so far together. Remember how the rule for Lee taking off his leg weights was if the lives of others was at risk, an absolute emergency. Now, taking off leg weights doesn't really do anything apart from affecting how fast Lee can move. Using the gates causes Lee to brutally destroy his own body. So surely the rule for using the gates would have to be something way, way more important than even the lives of other people, right? Given the very extreme repercussions of it, the only rule on using the gates was to protect and maintain one's own ninja way. Now, this is realistically a tad extreme, but I wanted to end the video on this note because Might Guy's telling Lee his goal matters more than the lives of others. Are you even putting yours above the opinion of others? And I don't just mean not doing the process because, others might laugh if they see me. I mean, will you actually set the goal to be? Because everyone told Lee his goal was completely unrealistic and that he should do something else. But he continued to endure the constant days, weeks, months of endless training, even with the idea that it could all be for nothing floating around in his head. Remember, he told Might Guy that no one, teacher or student, had ever told him anything other than, you can't be a ninja. The whole world was telling him over and over again to stop, and he saw plenty of evidence that he probably should, but he didn't. And so I honestly don't think Lee proves hard work beats talent because Kakashi and Might Guy were right. Lee, in his own unique, unflashy way, was gifted. He was a genius because he innately understood so much that no one else did. Even when he was boss of the class or lost again and again to Neji, the whole time, for his perseverance against the world in his own mind, Lee always was, and always will be, the genius of hard work. thanks for watching, bro. That was definitely the most fun I've had on a video so far. If you enjoyed it too, then the algorithm stuff really helps, the likes, the subs, and I'll see you soon for another video. Have a great day, man.